Between 1998 and 2004, a group known as the Beasts of Satan terrorized northern Italy with ritualistic murders fueled by drugs, heavy metal, and twisted occult beliefs. What began as a subculture of rebellious youth quickly spiraled into a series of brutal killings that shocked the nation. Led by Andrea Volpe and Nicola Sapone, the group lured their victims, sometimes friends, into the depths of horror, leaving behind a trail of blood, deception, and shattered lives. The story of the Beasts of Satan is one of betrayal, manipulation, and blind devotion to a belief system that justified unspeakable acts. It is a reminder of how ordinary people, under the right circumstances, can transform into monsters.
On a cold night in January 1998, Fabio Tallis and Chiara Marino left their usual hangout, the Midnight Pub, expecting nothing more than another evening of music and laughter. The underground metal scene in Milan had always been their sanctuary, a place where they could be themselves, away from the constraints of society. But that night, the sanctuary would become their grave. Their friends Andrea Volpe, Nicola Sapone, and Mario Maccione had already decided their fate. Under the guise of friendship, they lured Fabio and Chiara to a secluded woodland near Sama Lombardo, claiming they were about to partake in an occult ritual. Fabio, a tall and well-built musician, had no reason to suspect danger. Chiara, fascinated by the group's dark mysticism, was eager to join in. What began as a harmless gathering quickly turned sinister. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense and damp earth. As the group stood around a shallow grave they had dug earlier, their intentions became clear. Suddenly, they turned on Fabio and Chiara. Knives flashed under the moonlight. Fabio fought back with everything he had. At 6 feet 2 inches and 220 pounds, he was stronger than any of them alone, but not against the collective fury of his so-called friends. They stabbed him repeatedly, beat him with hammers, and finally forced him into the grave. Chiara, in a state of shock, was next. Unlike Fabio, she didn't resist. Her death was ritualistic. She was sacrificed, her blood seen as an offering to Satan. The killers stood over the graves, laughing and mocking the dead. "Now you're both zombies. Try to get out of this hole if you dare," one of them shouted. The bodies were covered, the earth swallowing the evidence of their monstrous crime. For years, their secret remained buried with the victims. Authorities assumed Fabio and Chiara had run away together. But one man refused to believe that story, Fabio's father, Michele Tallis. Determined to uncover the truth, he spent the next 6 years investigating the disappearance of his son and his son's connection to the dark subculture of Satanism. What Michele uncovered was far more terrifying than he had imagined. He found a network of young men and women who lived on the fringes of society, obsessed with death, drugs, and occult rituals. He collected evidence, spoke to witnesses, and compiled a detailed File 1 that would eventually help bring the Beasts of Satan to justice. But justice wouldn't come until another murder forced the police to take action. It was January 2004 when the Beasts of Satan struck again. This time, their victim was Mariangela Pezzotta, a 27-year-old woman who had once been romantically involved with Andrea Volpe. She had trusted him. That trust cost her life. Mariangela had been invited to dinner at a house in Golasecca, not far from the woods where Fabio and Chiara had been buried years earlier. She didn't know she was walking into her execution. The moment she arrived, an argument erupted. Volpe, now heavily addicted to cocaine and heroin, accused her of knowing too much about the past murders. He feared she might talk. Without hesitation, he pulled out a gun and shot her in the face, but Mariangela wasn't dead yet. She clung to life, bleeding, gasping. Volpe panicked. He called his leader, Nicola Sapone, for help. When Sapone arrived, he looked down at the still-breathing woman and sneered. "You can't even kill a person?" he mocked. Then, as Mariangela struggled to move, they picked up a shovel and began striking her, crushing her skull. She was still alive when they buried her in a shallow grave inside a greenhouse. Later that night, fueled by drugs and paranoia, Volpe and his girlfriend, 18-year-old Elisabetta Ballerin, tried to dispose of Mariangela's car by driving it into a river. But their plan fell apart. They crashed. Police arrived at the scene and found a frantic, incoherent Volpe. The crash was the beginning of the end. Under interrogation, Volpe broke. He confessed to Mariangela's murder and, a desperate bid to save himself, revealed the horrifying truth about Fabio and Chiara's deaths. He led the police to the burial site, where forensic teams uncovered the decomposed bodies of the two teenagers, who had been missing since 1998. The truth shocked Italy. The Midnight Pub, once seen as a harmless haven for metalheads, was now a symbol of something far darker. The trial of the beasts of Satan began in 2005, exposing years of violence, manipulation, and satanic delusions. Volpe was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Sapone, the mastermind behind the cult, received life without parole. Other members, including Paolo Leoni, Marco Zampolo, and Eros Motoroso, were also sentenced to decades behind bars. Elisabetta Ballerin, the young woman who had witnessed the horrors, served time but was later released. For the families of the victims, justice was bittersweet. They are murderers. "It's not fair," said Chiara Marino's grieving mother, outraged by the sentences. Michel Tallis, who had fought for years to expose the killers, could finally breathe, but his son was gone forever. The case left a lasting scar on Italy, leading to police crackdowns on satanic cults and youth radicalization. The Midnight Pub closed its doors. The woods of Sama Lombardo became a place of mourning. The name Beasts of Satan would forever be remembered, not as a band of rebellious youths, but as a symbol of pure evil.
All right, so we're diving into a case today that's one that'll really send chills down your spine.
Yeah.
The kind of story that makes you question, like, how dark can human nature really get?
Mm-hmm.
And we're headed to Italy for this one.
Oh, okay.
To the late 90s,
Okay.
where the disappearance of two teenagers from the Milan metal scene kind of opens up this Pandora's box of secrets.
Really?
And they're truly horrifying.
Wow, this is going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
What's so compelling about this case, though, is that it starts like any other missing persons case.
Right.
But the deeper you go, the more sinister it gets.
Oh, I see.
Like peeling back the layers of an onion.
Okay.
And you just keep finding more and more disturbing details.
So it all begins in this place called the Midnight Pub.
Okay.
So imagine like a dimly lit, smoky haven for metalheads in Milan.
I got you, yeah.
You've got the pounding music, the camaraderie,
Right.
the feeling of belonging that draws so many people to this subculture.
It's a community.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where our story's central figures, Fabio Tallis and Chiara Marino, they found their community there. But in January of 1998, they vanished.
Vanished, just like that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And initially everyone just assumed they ran away.
Yeah, you know?
Classic teenage rebellion,
I guess
seeking
so.
freedom. You know they hit the open road.
That's what it looked like. But Fabio's father, Michel Tallis, he had this gut feeling
Uh-oh.
that something wasn't right.
Oh.
He refused to accept the runaway theory
Interesting.
and embarked on his own investigation.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And this journey that he went on led him down a very dark and twisted path.
I can only imagine. So what did he do? How did he start?
What's remarkable about Michel is his determination, like unwavering determination. He dug so deep into the Milanese metal scene, piecing together clues, talking to anyone who might have known his son.
Wow, that must have been a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Especially back then, without the internet and social media like we have today.
Yeah.
So what did he find? Did he turn up anything useful?
What he started to uncover was this hidden subculture that was obsessed with death.
Oh.
Fueled by drugs.
Oh, wow.
And shrouded in these whispers of occult rituals.
That's disturbing. So it's more than just music then?
Yeah, and that's where the case takes this really disturbing turn.
Oh, gosh.
Michel's investigation leads him to this group calling themselves the Beasts of Satan.
The Beasts of Satan. Was that like a band name or something?
That's what you'd think, right? But no.
Oh, wow.
It wasn't some edgy metal band.
Okay.
It was a group that was deeply entrenched in this dark underbelly.
Oh.
And it was this chilling foreshadowing of the horrors to come.
That sends chills down my spine just hearing that.
For years, Michel searched for answers, desperate for answers. And then in 2004, a seemingly unrelated murder would crack the case wide open.
Really? A murder?
Yeah.
Wow, what happened?
A young woman named Mariangela Pezzotta,
Okay.
who had ties to Andrea Volpe.
Volpe.
Yeah.
Okay.
A member of the Beasts of Satan was found dead, but her death was far from a simple tragedy.
Oh, no.
What's crucial to understand here is this complex dynamic within the group. Volpe, driven by a heavy drug addiction and paranoia, believed that Mariangela knew too much about their past, their secrets.
Oh, so she was a liability then?
Yeah, and he decided to silence her permanently.
Oh, gosh. How awful.
And the way he did it well, it sent shockwaves through Italy. Volpe invited Mariangela to dinner.
Oh, no.
And it was there in this moment of cold-blooded calculation he shot her in the face.
He shot her at dinner.
Yeah, but the horror doesn't end there. Mariangela didn't die instantly. Volpe, along with another Beast of Satan member, Nicola Sapone, then beat her with a shovel.
Oh, my gosh.
And they buried her while she was still alive.
While she was still alive.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That is just barbaric. I can't even.
The brutality of the act is truly shocking, but it was this botched attempt to cover up the crime that would ultimately lead to their undoing.
What did they do?
Volpe and his girlfriend at the time, Elisabetta Ballerin, tried to stage a car crash using Mariangela's car.
Oh, I see, to make it look like an accident.
Right.
But it didn't work.
The plan fell apart, and Volpe ended up in police custody.
I see.
And under the pressure of interrogation, he confessed.
He confessed to everything.
And his confession wasn't just about Mariangela's murder. It blew the entire case wide open, revealing the truth about Fabio and Chiara's disappearance 6 years earlier.
Wow, so after all that time...
It was like a dam had broken.
Oh, wow.
Years of secrets and lies just flooding out.
Imagine the relief, but also the horror for Michel Tallis.
Right, to finally get answers after years of relentless searching, only to discover this horrific truth about his son's fate.
That's just devastating.
Volpe's confession led the police to a desolate location where the remains of Fabio and Chiara were buried, bringing this tragic end to Michel's search.
Oh, that's just heartbreaking.
And this discovery would launch one of Italy's most sensational trials. It exposed this network of violence, manipulation, and what many saw as a descent into true satanic delusion.
Wow, this is heavy stuff. I can't believe how this seemingly simple missing persons case spiraled into something so dark and complex.
I know. It's a lot to process, and we're just scratching the surface here.
I can't wait to hear more about the trial and everything that came out of it.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into all of that in the next part of our deep dive. This trial of the Beasts of Satan, it was like something out of a nightmare.
That sounds like it.
You had this group of seemingly ordinary young people accused of these horrific acts,
Right.
all under the guise of satanic rituals.
Oh, wow.
It captivated Italy. It forced the country to confront this darkness that they never imagined existed within their own communities.
Yeah, I could see how that would be so unsettling. So what came out at the trial? Did they learn more about the group?
The trial was this media frenzy,
Oh, I bet.
with every detail splashed across newspapers and TV screens.
Yeah.
But beyond those sensational headlines, what emerged was this deeply disturbing picture of the group's dynamics. You had Nicola Sapone,
Okay.
the supposed ringleader. He exerted this powerful influence over the others. There was this clear hierarchy with Volpe, fueled by his addiction and desperate for acceptance, becoming Sapone's right-hand man.
It sounds like a classic cult leader situation.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah. Preying on vulnerable people, promising them power or belonging. That's a scary thought. Did they ever figure out what drew these young people into this world?
It's hard to grasp how these young people could be drawn into such a twisted world.
Right.
Was it a genuine belief in Satanism, or was it something more?
Yeah, I mean, were they vulnerable, lost souls searching for belonging, or were they just inherently evil?
Right.
I imagine that's a question that's been debated for years.
That's the question that haunted investigators and the public alike. The group claimed their actions were driven by satanic beliefs. But many experts argued that their so-called rituals were more a product of their own warped ideology. This toxic mix of drugs, power dynamics, and a desire to shock. And while we can't discount the influence of the occult, it's important to remember that this wasn't some organized, established satanic sect.
I see.
Their beliefs were more like a hodgepodge of dark imagery and distorted interpretations of ancient rituals.
So they kind of created their own version of Satanism then?
Yeah, it's almost like they created their own twisted reality, their own set of rules.
Right.
And within that reality, violence became normalized, even celebrated.
That's chilling. So was Mary Angela's murder the only act of violence, or were there others?
Volpe's confession revealed other instances of abuse and violence within the group. It suggests that Mary Angela's murder was not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of a long and disturbing pattern of behavior.
That makes sense. Given Volpe's drug addiction and paranoia, I can see how things could easily escalate.
Exactly. And that's why understanding the role of drugs is so crucial in this case.
Yeah.
Volpe, in particular, was heavily addicted to this cocktail of substances, known to fuel paranoia and aggression.
Oh yeah, some drugs can definitely do that. Make you see things that aren't there, make you act impulsively.
He was often in this delusional state, convinced that enemies were lurking everywhere, that sacrifices had to be made to appease these dark forces he imagined.
Oh wow, so within that kind of chaotic, drug-fueled environment, I imagine Sapone's manipulative personality really thrived.
Yeah. He positioned himself as a leader, a prophet even, feeding the group's paranoia and encouraging their descent into violence. It's a classic cult dynamic.
Definitely.
Where a charismatic figure exploits the vulnerabilities of others for their own gain.
And we see that same pattern repeated in so many other cult cases throughout history.
Right.
It just goes to show how powerful the desire for belonging can be, how it can make people susceptible to manipulation, even to the point of committing horrific acts.
The trial brought to light the roles of another key players in the group as well. Paolo Leone, Marco Zampallo, Eris Monterosso.
Okay.
Each one played a part in this horrifying saga, whether through direct participation in the violence or through their complicity in silence.
All right, so it wasn't just Volpe and Sapone. There was a whole network of people involved.
Yeah.
What about Volpe's girlfriend, Elisabetta Ballerin? What was her role in all of this?
And then there's Elisabetta Ballerin, Volpe's girlfriend.
Right.
She was present during Mary Angela's murder, yet she claimed that she didn't participate.
Oh, wow. So was she charged as an accomplice?
Ballerin's role is a complex one. While she may not have physically committed the act, her presence, her failure to intervene, made her complicit in the eyes of the law.
That makes sense.
Her case raises these important questions about the nature of responsibility and the insidious ways in which people can become entangled in this web of violence and manipulation.
That's a tough question. How much responsibility do you bear for the actions of someone you're close to?
In the end, the court found the beasts of Satan guilty. Volpe received a 30-year sentence. Sapone, life without parole.
Wow.
The others were handed varying sentences, some decades behind bars. Elisabetta Ballerin served time but was eventually released.
So there was some sense of justice then. Although I imagine no amount of punishment can truly bring back the victims.
But here's the thing about sentences. They can't truly capture the immense loss, the shattered lives left in the wake of such horrific crimes.
That's true.
Chiara Marino's mother expressed outrage at the sentences, calling them a mockery of justice.
I can understand why she would feel that way.
And for Michel Tallis, it was this bittersweet victory.
Yeah.
He finally had answers, but the cost was unimaginable. He had lost his son, and the world had been forced to confront the darkness lurking beneath the surface of their society.
That's a tragic story all around. But I think it also highlights the importance of awareness and education.
Right.
We need to be able to recognize the signs of manipulation and radicalization, and we need to create environments where young people feel safe to come forward and ask for help if they need it.
This case left this indelible mark on Italy, but it also forced this national conversation about youth culture, about the dangers of radicalization, about the responsibility of adults to recognize the warning signs and protect vulnerable young people.
And that's a conversation that needs to continue, not just in Italy, but everywhere. I mean, how do we prevent tragedies like this from happening again? How do we create a world where young people feel seen and heard and valued so they're less susceptible to these dark ideologies? These are the questions that linger long after the headlines fade. The questions we need to grapple with if we truly want to learn from the horrors of the past.
This case really makes you think about the spaces we create for young people.
Yes.
The communities they're drawn to, the midnight pub,
Right.
Once this symbol of rebellion and belonging for metalheads,
Yeah.
it became this chilling reminder
Yeah.
that even in places of apparent acceptance, darkness can take root. It closed down shortly after the trial, its legacy forever tainted by the shadow of the beasts of Satan.
It's like a physical manifestation of the darkness that was present there. A reminder that evil doesn't always announce itself with, flashing lights and blaring sirens. It can just creep in quietly disguised as something familiar, even appealing.
Right.
That's what makes this case so unsettling.
Yeah, it challenges our assumptions about where danger lies. It forces us to confront this reality, that it can exist anywhere, even in the seemingly harmless spaces where young people gather. And the woods where Fabio and Chiara were buried, they became this place of mourning, this somber memorial to two lives tragically cut short. It's heartbreaking to think about the hopes and dreams they had, the future stolen from them.
Their story, and the story of Mariangela Pizzotta, serves as this powerful reminder that we can't afford to be complacent. We need to be vigilant, to educate ourselves in our communities about the dangers of manipulation and radicalization. It's about recognizing those subtle signs, the shifts in behavior, the language that might indicate someone is falling under the sway of a dangerous ideology.
You might be wondering, listening to this, what can I do? This all feels so big, so overwhelming. But the truth is, each of us has a role to play in preventing tragedies like this. It starts with awareness, with education. It's about having those open conversations with young people, creating spaces where they feel safe to express their doubts and fears, where they can find support and guidance.
Absolutely, we need to foster critical thinking. We need to encourage young people to question what they see and hear, to be wary of anyone who promises easy answers or demands unquestioning loyalty. It's about empowering them to make informed choices, to build resilience against manipulation, to recognize that true belonging comes from mutual respect and understanding, not from blind obedience to a charismatic leader.
The Beasts of Satan case shook Italy to its core, but it also sparked a movement, a renewed focus on understanding and addressing the factors that contribute to youth radicalization. It led to initiatives aimed at providing young people with alternative outlets for their energy and angst, promoting positive social connections, and encouraging healthy skepticism towards extremist ideologies.
And that's perhaps the most crucial takeaway from this deeply disturbing case. While we can't erase the horrors of the past, we can learn from them. We can honor the memory of the victims by working to prevent future tragedies. It's about creating a world where young people feel supported, empowered, and resilient enough to resist the allure of darkness.
Michel Tallis's fight for justice for his son is a testament to the power of love and perseverance. Even in the face of unimaginable grief, he never gave up. And his efforts ultimately brought the truth to light. His story reminds us that even in the darkest of times, hope can endure, and that even the smallest actions can make a difference. So as we conclude this deep dive, I leave you with this thought. What can you do in your own life to foster understanding, promote critical thinking, and create a world where young people are safe from the clutches of those who seek to exploit their vulnerability? It's a question worth pondering, a challenge we all share, because in the end, it's through our collective efforts that we can truly shine a light into the darkness and build a brighter future for generations to come.